have to take them off of meat because those chemicals in the meat and dairy alone cause fibroids. Aside from the fact that the latex condom causes chlamydia, pelvic inflammatory disease, and fibroids. The talcum powder in it causes cysts and tumors. The gel in the latex condom, rubbers as we call them, causes cancer. And all of that leaks into the uterus during sexual intercourse because the pores of the rubbers expand because of friction. And so all these chemicals go into the vagina and get into the uterus, and that contributes to fibroid tumors. So if you just being... So what we're looking at is the synthetic food, the bleached white flour, the white sugar. The white sugar alone is going to cause the veins and arteries of the prostate and the uterus to get hard because what the body tries to do is dilute the sugar. See, when you take the sugar out of the apple and you eat that sugar, the body says, where's the vitamins and minerals and water that went with the apple? So it pulls it out the veins and arteries. So that's going to cause the veins and arteries of the uterus and the prostate to get stiffer. Of course, it's going to cause blindness. The person's going to be on dialysis, lose their leg and feet anyway. But I'm just saying that there's a slow process where this is causing the stiffening of the uterus and the cumulative effect of the bleached white flour and the dehydrating sodas, because sodas dehydrate the body. When they make the soda, it is dehydrating because it's like the sugar. It needs all this water. It's like salt. It needs a lot of water. So we call them mineral salts in chemistry. So it's pulling the fluids out of the veins and arteries, making the uterus stiffer, which means it's going to hold more waste. So we got to come off of the bleached white flour and the white sugar. We got to come off of the dairy and the meat and the latex condom just to get in some kind of range of health here. But no, we're not looking at all these things because most black people, and the black ladies included, have an eating disorder. They eat for emotional reasons. They eat when they're upset. They eat when they're happy. They eat when they go shopping. They're addicted to the food, so they have an eating disorder on top of the fact they're trying to be healthy, you see. So we really got to look at this issue of the fibroids holistically, aside from the fact that it's spiritual, that the uterus is a spiritual organ. Well, it's actually a gland. Well, that's going into the miseducation that we have, because we don't know what an organ and a gland is.
Expand on that, though, when you say a spiritual organ.
Well, we're talking about creation. We're talking about being able to recreate yourself. So we have a system of sexuality in African culture we call sexual regeneration and sexual reproduction. And when you just focus on sexual reproduction, you're in the phase of sex known as breeding, which is what we learned during slavery. But before we came here, we had sexual regeneration, and that's when the man ejaculates and don't ejaculate. That's when the man and the woman say a mantra when they get to the orgasm state and visualize the energy going up their spinal cord, up to their pineal gland, and regenerating their spirit. And we call it, using sex for that purpose, sexual regeneration, which is what we practiced before we came here. There's a male component to sexual intercourse, which we call the sympathetic nervous system mediated. Then there's a parasympathetic mediated part of sexual intercourse, which we call a female principle. When you're in African science, you always deal with the male principle and the female principle. If a person doesn't say male and female principle, they're not in African science. Because we know it takes a male and female to make a child. It takes a negative and positive to get electricity going. You always have to have this male and female principle. Even if you took music, which is art, and you played the piano, you're going to end up in science. Because it's math. So art is female and science is male. That's why they call medicine the healing art. That's when you're using the female principle of medicine. That's how you diagnose. You diagnose with the female principle and the male principle. And when we were looking at disease earlier, and I was talking about the male expression of disease, we were just using the male principle. And you can't make a good diagnosis that way. You have to use both of them because it takes two to tango, as my grandmother would say.
Does the male contribute to the development of fibroids in the female in any way?
Oh, yes. The female contribute to the development of prostate.
How so?
It's aside from the fact that we don't use sexual regeneration, aside from the fact that the lady may harbor anger in her body, which will stop the uterus from working properly. Anger, frustration, disappointment, all those are feelings that have an impact on the muscular system. That's why people say, I got to relax, they're too tense. But in a relationship, you can produce tension. You see, this is not, I don't think couples doing this deliberately.
Sure.
They're just not aware of the impact that they have on each other through their words. Because we do a lot of sick things to each other. We look at each other